It's taken me a long time to get to this point, and I am happy to say that I finally feel like I'm in a good spot with my whole streaming setup that I can actually record a setup video. In my defense, I've lived in 6 houses in the 8 years that I've been streaming, so I have moved almost every year since I started streaming, and moving a streaming setup is just an absolute nightmare. It takes so much of me to break down my entire setup and then put everything back together and to remember where everything went. So I'm really happy that finally I feel like I'm gonna be staying in one spot for a long time, and I've really turned my space into something that I'm happy with. For those of you who have been asking for a streaming setup video for a long time, I really appreciate your patience. It was just a lot of parts that I never really felt like I had everything set up the way I wanted, and I knew, okay, I'm waiting on this thing, I'm waiting on that thing. I actually had to take 3 days off to clean everything and get everything organized, and then to finally sit down and record everything and make sure that I'm hopefully covering all the points and showing you all the things that you want to see about my streaming setup to answer some of those unresolved questions. I have a ton of stuff in my office, and so I'm gonna try to make it brief but also detailed to show you everything that goes on behind the scenes, all of my random stuff, and we're gonna talk about audio, lighting, all the stuff that I use in my daily setup, all the peripherals I use for streaming. I'm gonna show you some of the other stuff that I have as kind of hobbies, some of my music stuff. I'm gonna try and show off as much of that as I can in greater detail, and I'm also gonna put links in the description of all the things that I mentioned so that you can find what you're looking for. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Of course, we should start off with the main setup, which is all the stuff that I use for streaming every day and all of the audio and lighting that goes into that. For my monitors, I have 3 Samsung Galaxy G7 27-inch curved monitors. They are 1440p and 240 Hertz. So I use these for my streaming PC and my gaming PC both. Normally the left one and the right one are on my streaming PC. The center one I have hooked up to both HDMI and DisplayPort so that I can switch between either my gaming PC or my streaming PC, whichever I'm using, because I do most of my work on my streaming PC. All the Photoshop and video editing and everything goes on there. And then my gaming PC is just purely for playing video games. The monitors are mounted on these Ergotron monitor arms. They are pretty great. I really like them, but they are quite expensive. By now I'd guess that most people are familiar with the Elgato Stream Deck. I have the XL version and I use it for everything from changing my scenes. All these are my scenes here. This is all the voice meter stuff. So I've got basically it set up in like 2 channels. So one is my streaming PC and one is my gaming PC. I can change the volume higher or lower of either one here, and then I can mute or unmute them here. This is a really useful thing for me because I do a lot of Photoshop stuff. So like wherever I put my cursor on my screen, if I just hit that button, it just gives me the hex code and it copies it to the clipboard. So if I'm in Photoshop and I just need to like copy something really quick, that's a super useful tool. I am sponsored by Logitech, so I've got 2 Logitech G Pro X keyboards as well as 2 Logitech G Pro X mice. I really like these keyboards. They are a good size where I'm not hitting my mouse on my keyboard. With my old keyboard, it was super long, and so when I tried to move my mouse back and forth, I would actually hit my mouse on my keyboard and there would be little gouges on the side, and I like the feeling of the switches. I've got the tactile ones. One thing people ask me, or might ask me, is seeing this, why do you have 2 keyboards and 2 mice instead of just having a USB switch to switch the keyboard from one computer to the other one? The reason for that is I don't like when I'm streaming to have to switch between one computer and the other using a single keyboard. So for example, if I'm playing EFT and I just want to hold W while I'm walking somewhere, if I then switch my keyboard to try to check off alerts or to check messages and stuff like that with my mouse, then I can't do both at the same time. And sometimes there's a delay when you hit the button, you have to wait for it to switch back and forth. So I just prefer having 2 because it just makes it easier for me and I don't have to worry about trying to switch back and forth. One of the other really great things about the mice is that they're light, and so I actually get less arm and wrist strain from playing video games because they're just much lighter than the mice that I had before. I also wear the Logitech G Pro X headset. This is wireless, yes, but I prefer to use it as the wired version because my audio setup is a bit complicated due to streaming and it's just easier for me, and I just prefer not having to worry about charging it or anything like that. Yeah, these are super great. They're very comfortable. I wear them all day, every day for long periods of time. This is the camera that I use for streaming. It's a Sony a7 Mark III. It's got a Sony 16 to 35 millimeter f4 lens. You might consider this a bit overkill when it's essentially just a webcam, but when I first got this camera, I wanted something that would be able to do not only my streaming stuff, but I could just pop it off of this tripod and take it with me to do photo and video stuff when I was going to events or traveling and stuff like that. This camera setup kind of that I have is a bit of a custom thing that I did when I went to a camera store and I talked to the guy and kind of explained to him, you know, I want to have something desk mounted. I want it to be fully articulating so that it's easy for me to position the camera exactly where I want. And so we came up with this kind of weird solution. It's actually a mix of like, I think 4 different parts. This is one piece. This is a ball head camera attachment. You can see that it's got the little plate right there that attaches to the bottom of the camera. This is a fully articulating arm. Down here, there's a kind of attachment, I guess, and then the desk clamp, which is a separate piece. And it works great. I love it. So I don't have any plans to change that. This is the microphone that I use for streaming. It's a Blue Blackout Spark SL. It's also a part of my sponsorship with Logitech since they have a partnership with Blue. And the mic arm that I have is the longest name ever, the OC White Pro Boom Ultima Gen 2 Ultra Low Profile adjustable mic boom. It's really great. It's also quite expensive. So it's just that I wanted something that wouldn't have those terrible springs that make a lot of noise when you try to move the mic, and something that would not obstruct my view of my monitors. It makes it easy for me to move my mic around, and I really like it. My main desk is something that I picked up from the Battle Station subreddit. It's actually a butcher block top that you can get from IKEA. This is meant to be a kitchen countertop. The legs are also from IKEA, so it's basically just you screw these legs onto this piece of kitchen countertop, and I really like the walnut and black fixture look, so I was really happy with this. This desk is just for music stuff. I wanted to have a second space so that I could have some space to put my keyboard and all that, and of course I can't put it on my main desk because I've got all my streaming stuff. So this desk is from a company called Wavebone. This is the headquarter. I really like it. It took me a long time to get it. Really useful if you want to do music stuff because it's got this keyboard tray that rolls out. It's actually separate from the entire rest of the desk. There's rack space. You can have these little, I've got my compressor and noise gate installed here. That's the DBX 266 XS, and I'll go into some of this other stuff in a little bit. Now if we go behind my desk, my computers are actually back here. They're sitting on top of a Triplite server rack, and I just wanted to have my computers somewhere that was easy to access, but out of the way, not taking up desk space and that sort of thing. So this is my streaming PC, and this is my gaming PC, both from NZXT. This is the server rack that I mentioned, and it used to have my compressor inside of it, but since I got that desk, now I'm using it for some other electronics. There's a network switch in there. Big thing here in the middle is a UPS, so I've got my computers or some of my electronics are plugged into that. That acts as a battery backup so that if the power ever goes out in my house, I have time to shut down my electronics before the power just like cuts to them. So in the back there also there is a Synology 5-bay network attached storage. I use that to store important files, videos, things like that. It's also really useful as a backup. So all of my computers will automatically on a schedule back up their files and everything to that network attached storage. And then if anything goes wrong, I can just easily format my PC or like reset it to one of those backups. Let's talk about every streamer's nightmare, audio. So I used to have a full 8-channel mixer that was just an analog mixer. And now I just have this. This is a Native Instruments Complete Audio 6. My microphone is here, as you can see, and then this is just my headphones and my speaker cable, and it's just, that's it. There's a USB cable that goes out to the streaming PC, and then all the audio is routed using this program, which is called Voicemeeter. I wish that I could give you a tutorial on how to use that, but I barely understand it myself. One of my mods had to help me a lot with it. Now let's talk about lighting. So on the left here, you see I have the IntelliTech light cloth. It's a big softbox and it provides really diffuse light. It has a lot of options and settings. I have it set to about 10% brightness, and there's a lot of different options for it. I really like the light that it provides. On the right, I have a Nanlite Pavo Tube, or Pavo Tube, I'm not sure how they pronounce that. It's a 2-foot light bar. I wanted to have something that would provide nice lighting without being obtrusive to the door. As you can see, the door is right behind it. So I didn't want to have 2 of these huge soft boxes blocking my view. So I wanted to get something that was more a secondary source of light that wouldn't block too much of the view. These poles that you see that I have my lights mounted on are from Impact. They are basically tension poles like you would have in a shower that you have those things that it's like goes floor to ceiling and it has little racks on it so you can store your toiletries and stuff. But these are for lighting and they're super, super sturdy. Like they're very, very sturdy. And I really like having something that I can mount my lights on. You can mount all sorts of stuff on it. I've just got some like C-clamps and arms and things that go on here. So it's nice to have something that is a very small footprint, very sturdy, and does what I need it to do. Now a little bit more about the music setup. This is kind of a mini project that I've been working on for a while. It's one of the reasons that it took me so long to record a setup video because I was waiting to kind of get all of this in order. It's got this keyboard tray for my keyboard. This is the Casio PX160. It's got 88 keys. Up here we've got got the Intel NUC, which is running the whole thing. This is the Black Lion Revolution 2x2 audio interface. So I use that for just my music stuff. I wanted to keep it as separate as possible from my streaming audio. This is an Electron Digitac drum machine. I don't really know how to use it super well yet. I've been playing around with it and trying to learn. Over here is the PS5, and this monster is the Samsung Galaxy G9 49-inch monitor. It is huge and very heavy. I briefly did a promotion, like sponsorship thing with Samsung, and they sent me not only the 3 G7 monitors that I use for my streaming setup, but they were kind enough to send me one of these as well. And so I've been using this for my music setup and it works great. And this thing is what's called a drone flute. It's a traditional Native American instrument that I got from Blue Bear Flutes. Basically, it's got 2 chambers in it and it sounds really, really cool. I had quite a few people asking me to talk about cable management. Cable management is a nightmare. Just, I mean, full stop. There's never gonna be really just a nice looking pile of cables, I think, for a streamer, especially because I have so many cables and things that are just everywhere. You know, there's like the power bricks, especially for monitors, that are just absolutely the bane of my existence, because like, how am I supposed to cable manage that? But there are some things that you can do to make it less of a nightmare. One of those things is Velcro. Velcro is my best friend. I love these like Velcro cable ties. My monitor arms, for example, have built-in cable management, so they just go into the actual monitor arm, which is really nice. 2 things that I like to use for my cable management besides the Velcro strips. I don't know even know what to call this. It's basically like a fabric, and then it's got Velcro mounted on both sides of it, so it makes like a big loop. It can go around a lot of cables. You can also cut it to length, which is what I've done. And then the other thing, this was just to prevent Nova from chewing on things because she really likes to chew on cables. Plus, you can tuck like 2 or 3 cables in there. And we can't forget about the chair. The chair is a Herman Miller Logitech Embody gaming chair. It is excellent. I know they are very, very expensive, but it has saved my lower back from a lot of pain. Full disclosure, I did get the chair for free as a part of my sponsorship with Herman Miller, but I would highly recommend it. While I'm on that topic, something that people asked me about was, what are some things that I've done with my setup to make streaming easier on myself? And on top of the chair, having curved monitors, I know this sounds really dumb, but from my experience has actually helped me with having less eye strain and therefore less headaches. I used to get these really bad like ocular headaches that I could feel, you know, like an ice pick in the back of my head. And I have that way, way, way less frequently. One of the other things that's helped me with having less body pain while streaming is this thing, which is a 15-inch monitor that I just got off of Amazon. It's just a tiny monitor that I put my alerts on. I used to have my alerts on like the far left of this monitor, and so I would have to turn my head from the video game really far over to the left. So I put this tiny monitor up here so that I basically just look from the game up to the monitor. I can check the alerts. And this movement to me is way less painful than turning my neck 45 degrees to the side. And the other little personalization that I've added to my setup is this drawer. I use it for storing like my wireless earbuds. I've got a power brick here that has some USB cables. So if I need to charge my phone, it's got like pens and stuff. I've got some Advil. Makes things very easily accessible since my desk doesn't actually have drawers. Now let's talk about keepsakes and collectibles and things like that. This side of my office you just never even see. This of course is the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon. It is absolutely massive. I think it's over 7,500 pieces. It took me somewhere around 35 hours to build it, and I've got this like acrylic case here. I also bought some thicker acrylic from Home Depot and glued it onto the top so that it wouldn't slide because my cat really likes to sit on top of this. Inside this case is also a bust of Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's my favorite character in all of Star Wars, and this was a gift to me from my partner Fromage, as well as a very tiny Millennium Falcon with Chewie at the helm. I've got another Millennium Falcon down here. There's actually 3 of them total in my office. And I've got some pop figurines. This one in the middle is actually a custom one that one of my subs had made for me that has, you know, my streaming setup over here. There's Rhea, and then that's me looking really cool. This is a custom Stormtrooper helmet that was commissioned for me as a gift from one of my friends who works at Twitch. It's got my logo kind of stenciled on there and my name on the back. Thanks, Brad. This is the Master Chief helmet that was signed by the original dev team of Halo 3. I won this as part of a charity raffle. Over here, I've got a Mass Effect helmet that was part of the remastered collectible series. That one you can actually wear and it's pretty sick. This is a statue of Ellie from The Last of Us 2 that I got as part of this big box set that they mailed out that I think there were only like 200 of them or something. Here are 2 of my, I think 5 signed Dr. Lupo mouse pads. I think I've got a couple more laying around. And this is an Overwatch loot box, which is really cool. It was part of like some promotion that Coke was doing. And this was a case that used to have PC components in it. It's really, really cool. I took some of the parts out and put them into other PCs. And then I've got a Hue light mounted inside it so that you can see the stenciling better, because without the light, you can't really see anything. Above my music setup, there is this really big pegboard display, which I haven't really finished filling that out. It's got a lot of my badges across the top there that are all from TwitchCon and stuff like that. And some music passes over here. I've got my YouTube plaque from when my channel briefly hit 100,000 subscribers. Got some random like keyboards and controllers and stuff over here. This is a wooden piece of art that Fromage commissioned for me, and my signed copy of Tony Hawk's Underground that I got when I met Tony Hawk, and Han Solo's blaster. It's just like a replica. This is the rarely seen side of my office. I've got this custom artwork from The Last of Us. My acoustic guitar is hanging here, my Red Bull fridge, and this is a Bach Stradivarius B-flat trumpet that I used to play a lot of trumpet when I was in middle and high school. And there's just some random stuff here, some books, records as well over here. This guy is a Rugged dry cabinet. It's used for storing cameras and lenses and other expensive electronic equipment that you don't want to be exposed to too much moisture or too much dust. So I've got all of my camera lenses in here. There's like these cool trays that they make for them. These guitars are the Matt Heafy Epiphone custom editions, and the white one is called the Snowfall, and it was actually a gift from Matt, who is the lead singer and guitar player of Trivium, who these guitars are essentially designed for. So thank you, Matt. Someone asked what things I do to accommodate for Nova since I got a cat for the first time. This is one of them that I mentioned earlier. And the other thing is that I can't have any real plants because she chews on everything. Behind it is a signed Deftones poster that I got a few years ago when I went to the Deftones tour in 2011. And one of my favorite things about it is that Sergio drew like a little alien peeing. I don't know why, but it's really funny. And the final piece of the puzzle, someone asked if I could show off what it looks like when I'm streaming and where I have all my windows positioned and everything. So over here on my left side, I've got Chrome. So Twitter, Discord, stuff like that is all over here on the left. And then this black box kind of in the middle is the chat window. I use Chatty, which is just like a third-party chat client for Twitch. The center monitor would be my game normally. Up top, we've got a custom alert page that was made for me by one of my mods. Over here on the right side, I've got OBS so I can see what my stream looks like, and I've got Voicemeeter running so that I can easily check that if there's something going on. I hope you all enjoyed this more in-depth look at my setup, and hopefully I answered some of those questions that you had. I've been fortunate to be in a position where a lot of this stuff and some of the more expensive things have come to me as part of sponsorship deals or things like that. So right now, the sponsorships that I have are NZXT and Logitech. I genuinely really love Logitech products, and that's one of the reasons that I accepted that sponsorship with them. I have had no issues with any of them. I've had a lot of setup iterations over the years. It's gone from just, you know, one monitor and a laptop to this huge office, and I'm really just grateful and lucky to be in this position. I have worked very hard, so I'm really happy with the current setup that I have, and I don't really have plans to change a lot of it. I think it's in a really good spot right now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope I answered some of those questions, and I'll see you guys soon.